I don't understand if y'all see it the way that I do. There's this little thing called the Epstein files. There's a lot of people that have been found liable, charged, all kinds of stuff, from Prince Andrew and Peter Mandelson, from Norwegian officials, the former prime minister, and the former ambassador, all of these different people, right? Some would argue, especially since there was international trafficking that was taking place, some would argue that our president, whose name is found over and over and over and over in these files, may have engaged in, say, child trafficking, sex trafficking. They may come to that conclusion. Now, with that being the understanding, if there are other countries that believe, because they believe in actually holding people accountable, okay? So they say, you know what? There were some girls from England or wherever, because there were people from different countries, and they say, you know what, we gonna just come and we're gonna drop in on America. We're going to bomb America. We're going to kill civilians in America because you know what? We have a warrant for his arrest. Whether it's for the child sex trafficking in the Epstein files because America doesn't want to do their job, or whether we're talking about violating international law, whether we're talking about going and just randomly killing people. I can tell you that every single one of you that is sticking up for him right now would be screaming from the rooftops. The analysis has to be the same.
That question just ended the entire argument. Because here's what Jasmine Crockett did in that room on March 18th. She took the administration's own logic bomb first, asked questions later, and she turned it around, pointed it directly at the president, at the Epstein files, at the question nobody in that room wanted to answer out loud. And the silence you just heard? That was the answer. But here's what most people are missing about this hearing. That bomb question was the end of her argument, not the beginning. What she built before that moment is what made it land so hard. Let's go back to where this started.
But let me be clear, Donald Trump does not care about the Venezuelan people, and let me give you the receipts on how I know. He said that Venezuelans were invading the United States. He terminated the protected status of more than 350,000 Venezuelans. He deported Venezuelans to El Salvador's terrorist prison, even though many of them had no criminal record. So this was never about helping the Venezuelan people. Donald Trump does not care about Venezuelans at all. To be clear, there is no legal basis for the United States government to invade a sovereign country and kidnap its leader. There is no legal basis for recklessly bombing people who pose no immediate threat to the United States. And the exact language that I believe the chairman used was that this was a precise operation. I don't know if his definition of precise includes the fact that there were at least 40 civilians killed in this operation in Venezuela, and there was a total of 83 persons that were killed during this invasion. But Donald Trump's unlawful military action in Venezuela was never about stopping illicit drugs from entering the United States. According to the DEA's National Drug Threat Assessment, Venezuela has little to no role in smuggling illicit fentanyl into the United States. In fact, DEA has never listed Venezuela as a fentanyl source or transit country. Coast Guard and military data do not show any fentanyl coming from Venezuelan-linked maritime routes. It's interesting because the last thing that I remember hearing about is that the president decided not to consult with Congress before going into Venezuela, but to consult with oil corporate executives. I'll just put that out there. And Donald Trump, he also pardoned former Honduran President Juan Hernandez, who was found guilty in a court of law in these United States of trafficking more than 400 tons of cocaine into the United States, which is double the amount of cocaine that Trump's own State Department estimates was trafficked through the entire country of Venezuela. International drug traffickers love Donald Trump because they know that even if they are arrested, it's easy enough to get a pardon from him. The data shows that Donald Trump is one of the most pro-drug trafficking presidents in modern day history. Since he took office, prosecutions for drug trafficking have fallen to the lowest levels in decades because the agents tasked with going after drug cartels have either been fired or forced to start raiding your local Home Depot. or illegally breaking into the homes of American citizens, or monitoring community schools and churches so that the government can disappear entire families. It was never about protecting Americans. It was never about bringing democracy to Venezuela. It was never about stopping illicit drugs from entering the country. Like everything else this administration does, it was about corruption. The president told oil executives about the planned attack days before it happened. Trump then promised that all companies would be fully reimbursed by American taxpayers for any investments they make in Venezuela. And once the president illegally took control over Venezuela's oil reserves, the first sale went to the company of a man who donated $6 million to Trump's campaign. I'm gonna start with Tupac. We're gonna start with the fact that Tupac famously said, for those of you that didn't necessarily listen to rap, that we've got money for war, but we can't feed the poor. And the reason that I bring this up is for two reasons. Number one, in order to get Maduro, the estimated cost is $3 billion. I can guarantee you that a lot of Americans would say, yes, there's a valid warrant and things like that, but for the cost of $3 billion, let's put our money somewhere else, number one. Number two, Professor, you talked about the fact that if there wasn't the loss of life as it relates to our service members, or if this was just kind of quick boots on the ground for a second, then it wasn't war. So just answer this question for me. Would you consider what is taking place currently in the Middle East a war because we continue to have our sons and daughters returned in caskets to the United States? That's a yes or no?
No, the analysis for Iran is different.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you agree with me then? Yes?
I didn't say that.
Okay, it's different analysis. So I'm just going to go with you agree with me because this is clearly a war and it's unconstitutional. That is the bottom line. And frankly, as it relates to Venezuela, I think that we still will have some time to determine exactly how bad it is. Because imagine for 2 seconds that you had fishermen and sailors that were coming from the United States, and Venezuela all of a sudden started bombing our people, saying, oh, no, you're bringing guns. Because let me be clear, America does their fair share of nonsense in other countries. We tend to supply everybody with the guns. We flood this world with guns everywhere, right? So let's say they said, you know what, we don't want all those guns going to the gangsters in our communities. So we're just going to start blowing people up. And frankly, legally, that may work for them. You know why? We have a constitution and not everybody does. And so it is offensive to sit here and engage in this conversation as someone who practiced criminal law. And my God, everyone that I had, no matter what they were accused of, even if they were accused of capital murder, they were given an opportunity to actually show up in court and face their accusations, not be killed. So the justification, like, I don't understand why we are trying to make it partisan. It should not be partisan to just go and blow up these boats. Are you saying, Professor, that you believe that blowing up these boats because somebody believes it? You know what? Let me do it this way. Let's say they are drug traffickers. Do you believe that it is constitutional for the United States to blow up people that are accused of being drug traffickers?
So it's not going to be a yes or no question. If I could take
okay,
a few
then
seconds.
I'm gonna stop you there because I only got so much time. And Professor, I was really loving on you because you came from South Texas, which is down in Houston, not too far from the University of Houston, where I got my law degree. But it is very clear that it is unconstitutional for us in the United States. There's this little thing called the Epstein files. There's a lot of people that have been found liable, charged, all kinds of stuff, from Prince Andrew and Peter Mandelson, from Norwegian officials, the former prime minister, and the former ambassador, all of these different people, right? Some would argue, especially since there was international trafficking that was taking place, some would argue that our president, whose name is found over and over and over and over in these files, may have engaged in, say, child trafficking, sex trafficking. They may come to that conclusion. Now, with that being the understanding, if there are other countries that believe, because they believe in actually holding people accountable, okay? So they say, you know what? There were some girls from England or wherever, because there were people from different countries, and they say, you know what, we gonna just come and we're gonna drop in on America. We're going to bomb America. We're going to kill civilians in America because you know what? We have a warrant for his arrest. Whether it's for the child sex trafficking in the Epstein files because America doesn't want to do their job, or whether we're talking about violating international law, whether we're talking about going and just randomly killing people. I can tell you that every single one of you that is sticking up for him right now would be screaming from the rooftops. The analysis has to be the same. I am so offended that I am still paying my daggone student loans for law school, and it seems like none of it matters nowadays, because seemingly what we do is we twist the law to justify. The analysis is the same. If you would be outraged if they came and bombed our country to go after him, to arrest him, if you're listening, that I don't know if people are doing this. But if they decided to do that because of the Epstein files or because of violating international law, you all would be against it. So we should be against it right now.
What you just watched wasn't a hearing about Venezuela. It was a hearing about what rules actually apply and to whom. Because Jasmine Crockett didn't come in there to debate drug policy. She came in there to expose a double standard that has been sitting in plain sight for months. The argument the administration has been making is simple. If we believe someone is a criminal, we have the right to use force. No trial, no due process, no court, just action. And Crockett said, fine, let's apply that same logic to the President of the United States, because his name is in those Epstein files, over and over and over again. Now, to be precise, Crockett did not claim the president committed a crime. She was careful about that. What she did was expose the asymmetry, the idea that accusations justify lethal force when the target is a foreign leader, but somehow the same standard evaporates when it's someone closer to home, and nobody in that room could answer that, because the answer would require them to admit one of two things. Either due process applies to everyone, including people you like, or it applies to no one, and neither answer is something this administration wants on the record. Here's what most people walk past. This hearing was called to defend the legal basis for the Venezuela operation. The administration brought in 4 witnesses: a PragerU commentator, a law professor, a policy institute lawyer, a former drug enforcement official, 4 people to argue that everything was lawful and necessary. And Crockett didn't just push back on the policy, she made the legal framework itself collapse under its own weight. Because if bombing people over unproven accusations is constitutional, then nothing protects anyone, including the people making that argument today. She ended by saying she's still paying off her law school loans, and apparently none of it matters anymore. I think a lot of people watching this right now know exactly what she meant by that. Drop a comment and tell me honestly, do you think the legal framework Crockett described even exists anymore? Or are we watching it disappear in real time?